You have such an interesting life and you've traveled so many places. And I was just wondering, why is travel so important to you?
I just love it. That's why it's important to me. It's always something to look forward to, which you need. And I just love traveling to different places.
Mm-hmm. There's something about experiencing a new place that's so special, but you don't see that very often in people your age. And I'm wondering why you think that is.
I guess I've never grown up. I don't know.
We actually call her grandmother Nying, which is the Chinese word for grandmother on the father's side of the family.
I called him Grandpa Foot.
We, in our native language, in Hindi, we call them Dada and Dadi.
My other grandmother would be Maman Bozorg, which is Persian for grandmother.
Michechu means old woman in Kinyarwanda.
I called her Safta, which is a Hebrew word for grandma.
Everybody called her Mami Tita.
We called her Mima and Dede.
Grandma.
Hi, I'm Steph.
And I'm Robin. Welcome to Stories from Grandparents,
the podcast where we share stories about and from grandparents.
On this episode, we have our friend Madison interviewing her grandmother, G. This is another episode that is exactly what we imagined when we were starting the podcast, and it was so wonderful to hear a granddaughter interviewing her grandmother about the legacy she is leaving for their family, and also just about all of the joyous times they've had together. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, it was really cool. The theme of her question seemed to be about adventure and the adventures that her grandmother has been through throughout her life. And what a life. I mean, well, without giving much away, like, she's traveled the world. She's the most adventurous grandmother I think we've ever heard of. She's by far the grandmother I've most wanted to become friends with. I wish I could go spend an afternoon with her and just hear her talking about her life some more. She's incredible. And what a great job that Madison did with this interview.
Yes, she did a wonderful job. This was one of the easiest episodes to put together because Madison had it all planned out in terms of how to convey her grandmother's incredible life story. So we hope you enjoy.
This is really exciting. I'm so happy that you agreed to do this interview. It's such a special opportunity to be able to have these kinds of conversations with you when we're in the situation where we can't see each other and we can't hang out in the way that we want.
No interruptions.
That's true. So I wanted to start just by giving sort of an idea to everyone who's listening about the kind of person that you are and how I see you. So whenever I talk to you, my friends, the first example that I always give is that you are my grandma who went skydiving for her 80th birthday and liked it so much that she went back for her 90th birthday.
Yes.
So what inspired this original birthday party idea? I don't know of anybody else that has done this for their 80th or 90th birthday.
Well, it came about in a very interesting way. I was turning 80, and I wanted to do something for my family because they were always giving me parties. So Shannon, who's the travel agent, my daughter, we got together and we decided to rent 3 sailing ships in Georgian Bay and take a week out living on the ships. And so on my actual birthday, we landed for the evening in this little cove with a little sort of cliff behind it. And we went ashore, and all of a sudden, all of you grandkids appeared at the top of the cliff. And you sent down a whole bunch of tiny wee parachuters. And each one had a knot written on it. So I had to gather them up and make them into a sentence, which I did with great difficulty. And it said, for your 80th birthday, you are going to take a flying leap. I had no idea what that meant. And I was very curious. And they finally told me, they said, well, every once in a while, we heard you say, just off the cuff, oh, when I turn 80, I'm going to go skydiving. And I hadn't even remembered saying it, but they remembered. And so they were giving me this skydiving for my birthday. That's how it came about.
Well, I mean, you might not have remembered saying it, but it is a pretty memorable thing. It's not something you hear very often, someone say they're going to go skydiving when they turn 80.
Well, that's true. But I couldn't imagine you kids all remembering that. It just made my heart feel good.
So you did it, and you went skydiving. I wasn't there for your when you went on your 80th because I was in South America at the time.
Yeah,
you came and visited me afterwards and told me all about it.
And that was one of my favorite trips, traveling around Chile and Argentina with you. It was very special.
For me too, for sure. So how was the skydiving? I mean, obviously you liked it if you went back again.
I did. Well, of course I went tandem, and it was really, really neat. We kind of free fall for about 30 seconds, which is, it's just a feeling you just have to experience someday. And anyway, after the parachute opened, I looked down, and there were all my family formed in a G on the ground. And a G is what you all called me.
Right.
So, Angus, the guy who was skydiving with me, said, wow, do you ever have a great family? And I said, I certainly agree. It was so neat.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And
it's special, even more special.
It was awesome. It was so cool. Well, I wanted to go back to the beginning, I guess, with you. And, you were talking about our family. And so you have 3 kids, one of whom is my dad. And
that's right.
Yeah. And your kids have had kids. So you have 10 grandkids. And then 6 great-grandchildren and another on the way.
That's right.
And we're a very tight-knit family.
We are. We're Bawagans.
Yes, we call ourselves the Bawaga clan.
Well, we decided we wanted a name, and so at a party, we had a competition for naming our clan. And it turned out to be Bawaga, which is the first 2 letters of Baker, which is my last name, Watson, which is the kid's last name, and G.A., Bawaga, which is Shannon's married last name. Madison wasn't married at that time, so we just had the 3 names. Bawaga.
I'm still a Watson.
That's what it stands for.
I'm still a Watson, so I'm still in there. I'm still a Bawaga.
It kind of had a ring to it, so we kind of liked it. Do
you want to talk about our family slogan that you made up?
Oh, the slogan, Roots and Wings.
Mm-hmm. Where does that come from?
All I can think of is a long time ago, I read that expression, and I thought, wow, if I had a family, I think I'd really like to say that to them. And I remember that. And so that's how we got Roots and Wings.
I remember you always saying that when I was a kid, too, that you have to give your family roots and wings.
Yeah. Oh, is that right? You remember
yeah.
That? Yeah, well, it seemed like an awfully good slogan.
Well, I think we've all taken it to heart, so I appreciate it.
That's right. I mean, we all needed routes to get home to if we needed to. So that's our slogan.
So I know that you're very close with your sister, Eileen. She's 2 years older, and I know you've had a lot of adventures together with her.
We did.
Yeah. And when you were growing up, was your family really close like our family is now?
Uh-huh. We were fairly close, although Eileen and I, when we were teenagers, we weren't terribly close because she didn't want me hanging around with her and her friends because I was 2 years younger. But we've become very close since we became adults. Very close.
Yeah.
So it's nice because there were only the two of us.
Yeah, and you guys moved around a lot when you were kids, didn't you?
We did. It was during the Depression, and people were out of jobs and everything. My dad had a job, which made us kind of the lucky ones, but he would get undercut by some other principal somewhere else who had lost his job, and so my dad would undercut somebody else, and we'd move again. And it went on like that. It kind of snowballed.
And it was kind of like that through your whole childhood, wasn't it? You moved all over Ontario.
Yeah, well, it was northern Ontario. We lived mostly. And then when the war came, my dad joined the Navy, so that was the end of that.
And where did you live when he joined the Navy?
We lived in Geraldton, which is a little gold mining town up north. Nobody's ever heard of it much, but it was very big. But it did have a road, and it did have a railroad, so we felt pretty good there.
Sounds good.
Most of the places didn't have roads.
Wow.
Get there by train.
Wow. So how do you think that moving around as a kid and living in these small towns and also in big cities, you lived in Toronto as well a few times, didn't you?
Not till Dad joined the Navy, and then we moved to Toronto because he was stationed at York.
Okay. So how do you think that moving around a lot when you were a kid impacted your outlook on life? And do you think that gave you kind of a taste for adventure?
I think so. The living in the north, we were just free and easy, and we roamed the hills and the lakes, and we just were free to live. No restrictions on where you went or what you did, as long as it was legal. Yeah, we made friends, learned how to make friends very easily because we had to make a new set of friends every time we moved.
Right.
Yeah, but I enjoyed life there. We could climb trees and swim, and it was just exhilarating, sort of. So I didn't mind at all.
That sounds great, actually.
Yeah, it was.
So I feel really lucky because last Christmas, or the last Christmas that we were able to get together, you presented everyone in the family with a copy of your memoirs.
Oh, yes.
And I read it in one night. I was so excited to have it, and I wished it was longer.
Yeah, I kind of wished I'd made it a bit longer too, but that was it.
It's a lot of work, I can imagine. So, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, I was just agreeing with you.
Okay. So in your memoirs, you said that you were dying to go to university and you weren't really keen on going to nursing school, but your dad had signed you up for nursing school.
That's right, he did. And I kind of regretted it at the time, but later on I was kind of glad because having an RN opened lots of doors for me to new adventures.
Yeah.
But when Eileen, my older sister, she went to Western University for a year, we were still living in Geraldton at that time, and my mom had to take a job teaching at a mine, which was about 12 miles away from town. So she had to get up at 6 o'clock and get the bus and go out there and teach all day and come back home. She didn't get home till about 7 o'clock.
Wow.
So I had to, I made dinner and everything. So, it seemed like our whole family was working to keep Eileen at university. Well, then she quit. So I don't know if that had any bearing on whether I could go or not. I never did find out, but I had a feeling it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what did you want to study?
I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor really badly. But I got to do a lot of doctoring up in the Arctic and stuff anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like, you're, so we're jumping ahead here, which is okay. But when after your kids were grown up, you took work nursing up in the north.
Yeah.
And you did, so you were nursing even before you had kids too. You took a job as a nurse at a First Nations reserve in northern Manitoba.
Yeah, that's right.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say it was 1950. They had a really bad flood in Winnipeg. So there were no jobs, paying jobs. Everyone was working, trying to build dikes and things. Oh, and so we heard about them needing a nurse and a teacher. My husband was a teacher. And up in a remote Cree Indian village in northern Manitoba. So we decided to go. That's how we got there.
Were you apprehensive or nervous about that?
Oh, was I ever? Because the only training I had was I had worked in a operating room for a year after I graduated. And that was the only actual training I had, because the training at Toronto General was you were slave labor and that was it. You didn't learn a heck of a lot. So I was very apprehensive, and we got there, and I realized that the nurse who was there before me, they didn't like her very well. So they eyed me with not very friendly look. And but that was the year that penicillin had been it had been invented the year before, and so I was, and there was a flu epidemic in Nelson House. So I went around to all the penicillin had to be injected into your gluteus maximus, your bum. That was the only way that it could be given at that time when it was first came out. And so I went around to the people with the flu. They were scattered all around Footprint Lake. Like, it wasn't like a village. They were just haphazard, any old place. And so I did that every day. It had to be given every day. Well, of course, everyone got better because penicillin was just a marvelous drug. And so after that, the chief came to my nursing station and thanked me so much for all the time I'd spent, walking around the village giving these needles to people. And so after that, everyone was as friendly as could be. They couldn't have been nicer. So I guess the flu epidemic did me a favor.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to help. That must have been very rewarding.
Yes, it was. Especially when they all got better.
Oh, yeah.
But Nelson House was really an isolated place. I had to make a grocery order for a year's worth of groceries.
Oh, wow.
Which wasn't easy. Anyway, I did, and I sent it in, and it was supposed to come up on the tractor swing, which came once a year over the frozen lakes and rivers. And it was a tractor pulling a bunch of sleighs that held all these provisions for the little village.
Wow.
And but it was 3 months late that year.
Oh my gosh.
So we ran out of food, of course. But we did have a fish net under the ice in the lake. So we lived on fish for 3 months. That was awful.
Do you still like eating fish?
I didn't for a long, long time.
I bet.
No fish for me.
You got your fill.
Yeah. So I had a few little experiences, but one was when I spent the night sleeping with a priest.
What do you mean?
Well, the way it happened, I heard about a lady on a trap line who had a baby who was sick. So I got the canoe, the freighter canoe with a little kicker on the back, and was going to the trapline cabin, and the priest asked to come along so he could baptize the baby. So I said, sure. So we went across the lake and up a river quite a ways to this cabin, and I found the baby was just a little underweight and hadn't been eating very well. So I stayed, for a while, and the baby seemed to be eating fine at this point, and the mother agreed. So we started to back home along the river. We got to the lake, and my gosh, a wild windstorm had come up. We couldn't go across the lake. And it was not really warm. It was sort of the fall. And so we landed and built a fire. And we had one blanket with us. That was it.
Oh, wow.
So the priest and I shared the blanket. And so we stayed the night there. And then we were able to go home the next morning. But everyone teased me about sleeping with the priest.
Oh, wow. So, after your first adventures up north, you had a double adventure in 1955 when you moved to England, where my grandfather was doing a teacher exchange, and you had your first child.
I did. Well, the reason we had a baby there was because it was free in England, and in Canada at that time, you had to pay all your expenses when you went in the hospital to have a baby.
Really?
So, yes. So that was before OHIP. So so that was the reason, because I wasn't planning to work. Because to work in England as an RN, you had to pay a huge amount to register to work.
Oh, wow.
So I decided not to bother. Anyway, I had a good time.
So did you know that you were pregnant when you decided to go to England, or did you know that you wanted to have a baby?
Well, we had talked about it. Yeah. No, I wasn't pregnant when we left, but I got pregnant fairly quickly.
The timing worked out.
Yeah, it worked out, but it wasn't a pleasant experience, really. I miss my mom being there and my family. And the baby was delivered by a midwife, and she didn't know how to suture in a episiotomy.
Oh, no.
So I had to wait. It took 2 hours to find the doctor to come and sew me up.
Oh, my gosh.
But the rest turned out okay. I was in the hospital 12 days at that time in England. So by the time I was ready to go home, I was fine. And Shannon was fine, and it turned out okay.
Wow. Yeah, I guess, I mean, having become a mother myself recently,
yes,
just thinking about the idea of becoming a mother for the first time so far away from your own family, what was that like?
That's right.
What was it like being so far away from your family?
Like?
Yeah.
As I say, I miss having my mom there. My mom and I were really close, and I really, really missed her being there. But we survived. It would have been nicer to have the family there, but
yeah,
they weren't. So we did.
You did what you had to do.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things I did that were kind of interesting, like going to a garden party at Buckingham Palace.
I didn't know about that.
Oh, well, I got an invitation to go to Buckingham Palace to a garden party. I don't know why. I guess it was because I was a husband of teacher on exchange or something. Anyway, I got home from the hospital having Shannon, and 2 days later I was in Buckingham Palace at a garden party.
Oh my gosh.
Which was quite exciting, really. And then I also got an invitation from the Queen Mother to visit her at Clarence House. She showed me her rose garden, which was quite an honor too, really.
Wow.
I loved both of those little experiences.
Did you bring the baby?
No, I wasn't allowed to.
Wow.
Anyway, she stayed with Wendell.
Oh, so it was just you?
It was just me, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, then you came back to Canada, and you had my Uncle Kevin and my dad.
Yep.
And my dad, he talks very fondly of his childhood, and he talks about some of the adventures that you guys had, including driving to Mexico with a trailer.
Oh, yes. He wasn't very old, but he's got a terrific memory.
Yeah, he remembers it very vividly, it seems.
He was. I didn't know what you said.
Oh, it seems like he remembers it really vividly.
He was little physically, is that what you said?
It's okay. He remembers it really well.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I'm thinking, like, I have 3 kids now who are similar, in age probably. I think your kids were probably a little bit older than mine are now when you guys did that trip. But I'm thinking about, like, did you have fun on that trip?
I did. We had a lot of fun.
I know the kids had fun.
They didn't have any iPhones or anything like that. That's right. What keeps kids busy today.
That's true. So once your kids were older, once they were grown up, you joined Elder Hostel. And you had some pretty cool adventures with them. Like you went to space camps and you said you went paddling down the Colorado River. So what inspired you to join Elder Hostel and start having these adventures?
Well, I started reading about it someplace at the library or somewhere, and the trips just sounded so exciting. And they were all just for single seniors, and they all just a week long, but they were fantastic. So we, I crewed on a tall ship with the Elder Hostel, and I learned to sail a small ship, and went to space camp, did a lot of interesting things with them. I just can't remember them all right now. But they do. It's all over the world, Elder Hostel. A lot of people have never heard of it, but it's a wonderful organization.
That's so great. And I think a lot of people, when they reach their senior years, they maybe think that those kinds of adventures are something that they wish they would have done.
Maybe. Well, I'm just lucky I stay healthy.
Yeah. What's your secret?
I don't know. I'm just lucky, I guess.
Okay, so you're not giving away your trick?
Oh, I eat well and I exercise. Like always, stuff gives you exercise. And then they give you always have to have something to look forward to. That's my thoughts anyway. That if there's something to look forward to, you're living.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think that's my new slogan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I want to talk about once your kids were grown up. So, this was when I was a little kid. You set off again for nursing in the North, and you went up to the Northwest Territories.
I did, yeah.
And in your memoirs, you say, I had signed up for 1 year, but was enjoying the work so much, I stayed for 12.
I did.
What did you enjoy so much about that experience?
Well, it seemed to me like a sort of an adventure. And the Inuit people are so nice, and so friendly. And I was appreciated by what I did. And I enjoyed doing what I did because it helped a lot of people. And I never had a dull moment. In fact, I had a lot of stressful moments. Yeah. One time I worked 36 hours straight. There were a lot of Medevacs at Churchill and Winnipeg, and a lot of people needing my attention at the nursing station. And so I worked, anyway, 36 hours went by before I even realized it.
Oh, wow.
And when I got off the plane coming back from the last Medevac, there was a Mountie met me. He knew I'd been working for a lot of hours, and he said, I'm just going to de-stress you. And he had his ATV, and he took me on a long trip out onto the tundra on the back of his ATV and back up to the nursing station. It worked perfectly. Yeah, I couldn't thank him enough.
I think most people would have preferred to lie down and watch TV, but you went on an ATV ride across the tundra to relax after a long day.
Yeah, it did. He was really nice.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you worked as a Medevac nurse in lots of different northern communities, and you worked doing that until you retired at the age of 69.
That's right. I didn't want to quit. I just enjoyed it. One day was never the same as the next. It was always something different happening. Sure.
This is Steph, and it's just, I guess, my own curiosity, but Churchill, is that the place that's known for polar bears?
Yes, it is.
Did you have any encounters with polar bears while you were living up there?
Actually, I did. One time we were returning from a Medevac, and we were just exiting the plane with the patient on a stretcher. It was dark. It was the middle of the night. And all of a sudden, we saw this polar bear about 10 feet away. Boy, you never saw us get back in the plane so fast. And we waited for the ambulance to come, and they scared the polar bears away. And we were able to get the patient off the plane. But that was the only close encounter I ever had with one, which I enjoyed.
And like you said before, you had wanted to be a doctor, and I guess this is kind of the next best thing, right?
It was the next thing to it, I guess. Yeah, I delivered lots of babies and sewed up millions of cuts and stuff like, routine stuff like that. And some different stuff, too.
One thing I always remember when we were kids, and my Auntie Shannon had a swimming pool that wasn't very deep, and you would always tell us about kids in the north who dove into water that was too shallow and how many injuries you'd seen from that. And I think about that every time I go to shallow water.
Is that right? Really? Oh, you kids. You took in a lot more than I knew you did.
Well, and something that I always remember, too, is I know that it was the timing of your work up north was when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's true.
And I remember hearing about you being up north, and I remember you bringing us Inuit crafts as presents, but I don't remember you being absent. Like, you were always around for birthdays and special occasions, and you were very close with all of us grandkids. And I wonder now, how did you manage to do that when you were so far away so often? How did you stay so close to your family?
Well, the first 2 years I was at nursing stations, and I only got out once a year. But then I transferred to work for Kuwait and Air, just flying Medevacs. And I was on call and worked a whole month, like night and day. And then I had a month off. So I would go south and see all you kids and stuff. So it worked out a lot better. Months on, months off, months on, months off. So that's
great.
That was the way it was. So and actually I got paid from Kuwait and Air, whether I flew Medevacs or not, although I did almost every day.
So you kind of got the best of both worlds. You were able to...
Yeah, that's right. That's why I hated to quit.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine a more stressful work environment, and you did that until you were almost 70.
Almost 70, yeah, I did.
It's amazing. You're very impressive.
Well, some of the Medevacs were pretty stressful. Others were more or less routine, so it wasn't all stressful.
Well, that's good.
But, yeah, I remember one really stressful Medevac. I had a chap, he was about 23, with a ruptured appendix. He lived in Sanikiluaq, which is a little island in Hudson Bay, which belongs to the Northwest Territories. And I was flying him out. It was a really, really cold night. it was so cold, the windshield of the plane cracked.
Oh my!
So of course we had to land right away. So we landed at an outpost place in northern Ontario, and we had to stay there overnight till they could get another plane. And I was so worried about this young guy with the ruptured appendix. We had, a couple of IVs running and stuff like that. But anyway, we finally got him to Winnipeg. And I was just really tired. And I realized I didn't have any money with me. And no credit cards.
Oh, no.
Oh, dear. So I couldn't get anything to eat or anything.
Oh, no.
I did get a plane home to Churchill. So always after that, I carried some money with me.
Lesson learned.
Yeah, right.
So in addition to your adventures in the North, you've also traveled the world.
I did. I just love traveling. I just love it.
And a lot of your trips have been with your children, like when they've been adults, and your grandchildren as well.
Yeah.
So what have been some of your favorite trips and why?
What comes to mind is we were traveling to China, and Kevin and Cindy were on a trip around the world.
Your son and his wife.
So I, with the two kids, yeah. So I told them to meet me on the Great Wall of China. So we went to the Great Wall. I was with a girlfriend, and I couldn't find them. And we were walking along this Great Wall, looking at all the stuff, and all of a sudden behind me, this young girl came up and jumped on my back. It was Shoshana. So we had a great reunion on the Great Wall of China.
That's amazing. So that
was quite an interesting. Oh, and we met them another time in Nepal. And we rented a Sherpa and a guide, and we climbed a mountain in Nepal to the top, spent the night at the top, and hiked back down the next day. And we were staying in a hotel, and we got rickshaws back to the hotel, and the two rickshaw drivers started having a race. And we raced back to the hotel in these rickshaws. That was a fun trip, that one. The views from the top of the mountain were absolutely fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah, that was nice.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I've had some interesting trips. We just now finished one, a couple of years ago, back through the Northwest Passage with an expedition ship. There's 12 scientists on board, and they shared all their findings with us. It was a fantastic trip.
That's amazing. And you went to Antarctica recently too, right?
What? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You went to Antarctica recently?
Yes, we did. We went to them 2 or 3 years, went down there 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, that was an interesting trip, especially across the Drake Sound. It's really rough.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, one thing that I really remember from the trip that we did when you came and visited me when I was studying in Chile, we flew to Buenos Aires, so we flew across the Andes, and then we took a bus. We took a bus back.
That's right.
And when we were flying across the mountains, there was quite a bit of turbulence. And I was gripping my seat. I was so scared. And
you were
secretly praying that we were not going to crash. And I looked over at you and you said, this turbulence is making it hard to cut my meal. And you were totally cool, totally calm. And I
was used to rough.
Exactly. Well, and so that really gave me some perspective. And I'm not a very comfortable flyer, but now when I fly, I think of you and I think, oh, G would be so embarrassed to see how afraid I am right now. I've got to be tough.
Well, I think the thing was, at that trip, we came back on the bus to Chile from Buenos Aires through the Andes. And I was scared when we were, going around those mountain roads.
Yeah.
With a huge drop over the side. And you weren't. So we each got back at each other, I guess.
The tables turned. It's true. Yeah, because I had taken lots of bus trips through the mountains that were very scary, and so I knew it would probably be fine. And you'd taken lots of very scary plane rides, so
yeah. That was an interesting trip with you. You were such a great interpreter, and in Buenos Aires we went to what was that dance they do in Argentina?
Tango.
Yeah, tango dance. We went to a tango club with your friends, remember?
Mm-hmm.
That was so fun.
It was. That was great.
Yeah.
Drank a lot of wine.
We always drink a lot of wine. In fact, I'm drinking wine right now.
There you go. Saturday night.
Yeah.
Well, you don't seem to be slowing down. I mean, obviously this pandemic has, I'm sure, gotten in the way, but you've gone in recent years, like in your 90s and your late 80s, you've gone to the Amazon, you've gone to Antarctica, you've done the Northwest Passage. So what's left on your list?
Well, we had a trip booked. We were going up the coast of Norway on this same expedition ship. We went through the Northwest Passage, and it called it, all the little fjords and stuff. But it got canceled because of COVID. So we're still looking forward to doing that trip.
Yeah.
If we ever get the chance to.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? Oh, sorry,
I
go ahead.
was just going to say, fortunately, I've met you've met Grant, and he likes to travel, so that makes it nice to have someone to travel with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a great companion for you.
Yeah, he is. Couldn't be better. So I'm still quite happy, and I'm really wish I could see all my great grandkids, but one of these days I'll be able to. FaceTime is wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've always kept up with technology to be able to take advantage of these kinds of things. I feel so lucky that we can FaceTime you. We can't do that with the other grandparents.
No, and I don't know why. Why don't they get iPhones?
Why don't they go skydiving?
Well, no. Oh, dear.
It's a different attitude.
I guess so.
What do you hope that your family has learned from you?
Follow your dreams and don't let opportunities for adventure pass you by, which you don't. That's for sure.
Well, thank you.
Now COVID has kind of put everyone on hold, haven't they?
Yeah. Yeah. I really can't wait to give you a hug again.
Yeah, right. But that,
okay.
Yeah, well, I can't think of anything else. You've covered stuff extremely well, Madison. And I think you should be the one talking about your experiences. You've had an awful lot of adventure. You got my spirit.
Well, I was going to say, you've seen the world. You've helped so many people. You've had these incredible experiences. And your whole family, we all look up to you so much. And we all adore you. And we're also inspired by your spirit and the story that you've written for yourself of your life. It's really amazing. And if you look at all of us, like most of your grandchildren have lived abroad, or all of us have traveled.
Oh yes, they do.
Yeah, we're all.
Thailand is in New Zealand right now, traveling around.
What's special about being a grandparent?
Oh, it's so special. I just love each of my grandchildren so much. And now I've got great-grandchildren too. And I just wish, that I could see more of them lately. And each one is just so very, very special. What they're doing and everything about them.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
So you've become a mother and you've become a grandmother and now you've become a great-grandmother.
That's right.
How is each of those stages different? And what's great about each of those stages?
Well, your own children, you have the, I guess you're in charge of their growing up.
Yeah.
Whereas grandchildren, you can just love them and play with them and let their parents take over the work. The same with great-grandchildren. So I guess that's the difference. Although you certainly love your children very much, you want them to succeed and you want to help them be wonderful people. And they all my grandkids all have really nice marriages, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's the difference, that you're not responsible for your grandchildren or great-grandchildren. You can just enjoy them. You can enjoy your kids, but you're still responsible for them.
Yeah, I guess it's less pressure.
Right.
That's great. Thank you.
Well, it's nice of you to do all this.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your legacy with us and our listeners. Roots and wings. I'm going to have to steal that for my family, because what an amazing gift to pass on to your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren.
Well, thanks a lot for asking me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
This was amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Stories from Grandparents. If you have any interest in submitting stories, or if you want to participate on the podcast, please send us an email at storiesfromgrandparentspodcast@gmail.com.
And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. It really helps us out.